Can Dr. Bright defeat billionaire Jeff Bezos? So I'm curious to see if he can. These and see what's
The Foundation was in chaos. One minute, Dr. Bright was looking into some harmless products on Amazon to help the Foundation's anomalies have a nicer experience in their cells. The next, he was physically fighting for his life against the company's CEO. Of course, Dr. Bright's wacky antics have revealed the location of the SCP Foundation's most valuable containment site to Jeff Bezos and his legions of minions. Does Dr. Jack Bright have it in him to fix his mistake, defeat the mighty Jeff Bezos, and save the SCP Foundation from corporate servitude? Are the forces of the SCP Foundation equal in strength to the Amazon Horde? And how, at the 11th hour, will anomalies like SCP-096, SCP-682, SCP-173, and SCP-049 help save the day? Buckle up. The only way to find out is to keep watching. The two titans, Dr. Bright and the freakishly buff Jeff Bezos, were locked into an intense struggle. The hapless immortal tried his best to punch and kick the augmented CEO.
Well, yeah, if you want to be a trophy wife, yeah, maybe. He's the best.
Jack!
Bezos roared.
Pathetic.
Let me show you how a real man does it.
With one punch, Bezos sent Dr. Bright skidding across the dirt, seeing stars. Bezos punched him so hard, Dr. Bright felt like he'd been hit by a runaway truck. Where had he even gotten all this anomalous technology? Something more was going on here. But before Dr. Bright could collect his thoughts, Bezos was already upon him. The ruthless business mogul clasped his hands together and brought them down onto the back of Jack's head in a brutal
IRL Bezos
drive,
wish he looked like
burying his head in the dirt. The guards of Site-19 looked on in terror at the thousands of Amazon troops surrounding them, and they were betting all this on a fistfight, and what's more, it didn't even look like Dr. Bright was winning that fight.
Okay, I just gotta check. That would be hilarious if Amazon actually had like an actual army and troops and stuff. Which I would not be surprised if there was, because I figured that's what's motivating the workers in the warehouses.
Unless the good doctor used his special move. Bezos, still cackling like a Saturday morning cartoon villain, grabbed Dr. Bright by his hair and dragged him out of the dirt. He lifted the doctor, bloody and bashed, with one hand. At that moment, Dr. Bright knew that he had to go with the nuclear option here. He needed to use SCP-963 to take over the body of Jeff Bezos and end this demented war.
Do it.
Had enough, Jack.
Bezos.
Okay. This has totally got to be like almost taking inspiration from Medical Rising Revengeance, because he's totally got the Senator Armstrong bod and the Jack references. Yeah, come on.
Or do you want me to humiliate you even more in front of your sad little employees? Or should I say my sad little employees?
Oh no.
Without another word, Dr. Bright grabbed the amulet hanging around his neck and balled it into his fist. Moving as quickly as he could, he lunged at Bezos with the medallion, knowing that one touch should be enough to finish this whole thing. But then, the unexpected happened. Bezos caught Dr. Bright's hand. The flesh of the CEO's fist turned obsidian black.
Nanomachines, I knew it.
He was still himself. Impossible. All the SCP Foundation staff in attendance were shocked and horrified, but none more than Dr. Bright himself. This was the first time that SCP-963 simply hadn't worked. I don't understand, Jack said, voice trembling as Bezos squeezed his hand with an iron grip. I should have taken you over. How is this possible? Bezos chuckled before unleashing a brutal headbutt on Dr. Bright, throwing him back through the air. Bright was lucky he managed to keep a grip on the medallion. This body hadn't worn it for 30 days. If he dropped it, it would have just been another useless necklace.
Nanomachines, son!
Called it! I called it, I knew it!
Bezos barked, cracking his neck back into place.
I had them designed with you in mind. Anytime and anywhere your necklace touches me, they reshuffle my genetics to turn that flesh into inanimate pseudo-metal. Do you think I'd lead an assault on the SCP Foundation without planning for every possible eventuality? I've been playing the long game.
It was at this point the Foundation guards assembled outside
IRL
the
Jeff
building
Bezos
opened
only
fire
has
on
the
Bezos,
ballpark going.
but it was no use. The bullets just ricocheted off of his anomalously enhanced physique. He just gave a bellowing laugh and ordered the full strength of his forces to move in. As far as he was concerned, the fight was already won. If their forces could plant the grinning Amazon flag in the heart of Site-19, the SCP Foundation would be his. It was time for the true final battle to begin. Amazon's troops loaded their weapons and charged, firing volley after volley of bullets onto the Foundation's guards entrenched in their positions. Of course, the Foundation personnel was better trained, but the Amazon army outnumbered them 10 to 1. It was only a matter of time until the barricades gave way, and the forces spilled into the containment facility. And then, they did. Inside the building, Dr. Clef was reading his new copy of Shotguns, a comprehensive guide, when the army breached the perimeter. It was at this point that he put down the book and picked up his favorite shotgun, a Remington Model 1187.
Nice.
Fun fact, also the preferred weapon of Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men,
Clever.
entered the fray. They'd need every SCP Foundation hand on deck to repel the incoming attack. The one thing that not even Dr. Clef predicted was for the anomalies to get involved too.
Of course.
You see, in ordering his troops to attack Site-19, the fleet of Amazon attack helicopters above began launching AGM-114 Hellfire missiles at the building to knock out guard towers and strategic communications arrays. This, however, had the unintended effect of causing power fluctuations within the building. And with many of the reserve generators devoted to maintaining external security against the Amazon army, internal security failed entirely. In other words, a whole lot of cell doors were popping open. A group of Amazon foot soldiers were making their way down hallway 6C when they saw something strange on the ground. A tide of green bubbling chemicals that produced a horrific smell. Little did they know, this was powerful hydrochloric acid, but in this instance, it wasn't the acid they should be worried about. They heard a raspy voice behind them say, "Disgusting." That's when they turned to see SCP-682, the giant rage-fueled immortal reptile standing right behind them. It had just finished its exotic beef jerky collection, and now it was eager for seconds. The Amazon soldiers panicked and began to open fire on the beast, but all that succeeded in doing was annoying it. SCP-682 leaped onto them and began devouring the group of hapless mercenaries alive. Elsewhere in the facility, another group of Amazon mercenaries were chasing some defenseless SCP Foundation researchers through the secure humanoid containment wing. The researchers tried to run, but soon they were backed into a corner. The mercenaries laughed and leveled their assault rifles. This would be an easy kill. However, the second they tried to fire, they realized something extremely strange had occurred. All of their guns had turned into delightful bouquets. Standing between them and the researchers they intended to kill was SCP-343, also known to some as God.
Now, boys,
SCP-343 said with a slight smile.
Can't we all just get along? Make love, not war.
Frightened by the seemingly impossible act they just witnessed, the now unarmed mercenaries ran into a nearby room with a sturdy-looking door and locked themselves in. Hopefully, nobody would get them here. That thought was interrupted by a grandiose voice with an archaic French accent speaking out behind them. "Why, hello there, good sirs. So kind of you to step into my practice today." They turned and saw a strange, robed man wearing a runner pigeon mask. The figure removed the mask, only to reveal what seemed like another strange beaked mask underneath. It was SCP-049, his desk covered in pleasingly polished Amazon medical tools.
The irony.
You gents seem a little under the weather. This is cause for concern,
the plague doctor said as he began to walk towards the frightened mercenaries.
The pestilence runs rife these days. Not to worry though, I am an expert, and I've been itching to try out my lovely new tools.
Horrified screaming was heard from the room shortly after, then silence. But Amazon troops kept pouring in. It was an all-out assault beyond any that Site-19 had ever experienced. Some Amazon strike teams were making their way through the break rooms, hunting for more Foundation employees to capture or execute. One of them remarked that these SCP Foundation employees must be real head cases. Why else would they keep such hideous concrete sculptures in the break room?
173.
The second they found there was no one inside and turned to leave the room, they all lay dead on the ground with snapped necks. That would make it 17 Amazon mercenaries they'd killed.
I don't know why they designed it like that.
It's kind of weird looking. A truly wonderful time. Meanwhile, over in his office, Dr. Clef was fighting for his life. A group of junior researchers were taking refuge in there with him and handing him shotgun shells from his many, many boxes of them when he needed to reload. Soldier after soldier was running into the room, and Clef was using his trusty Remington pump action to blow them away with incredible precision every time one of them ran in. An awestruck researcher asked, "How are you this good with that thing?" Clef laughed and said,
"Kid, I could unbutton your lab coat with it."
Then tragedy struck.
Classic Clef.
Dr. Clef ran out of shells. He sighed and told the assembled researchers to run out of the back exit and save themselves. He'd hold back the tide of Amazon mercenaries alone.
Yeah.
He kissed his shotgun and said, "Forgive me for this, Remy," then grabbed it by the barrel. If he couldn't shoot with it, he'd at least use it as a club. He ran out into the fray, bashing down mercenaries left and right with his shotgun club until he was finally outnumbered. A group of heavily armed soldiers surrounded him, holding him at gunpoint. One of them gave the order to fire.
"Wait,"
Dr. Clef said.
"I can be valuable to you. You don't know who I am, do you? Give me a second. Let me show you my ID."
Dr. Clef pulled an ID wallet from his lab coat and then showed it to the soldiers. They looked at it, confused and a little disturbed. The leader of the group said,
"That's not an ID card, you schmuck. What the hell is that ugly thing anyway?"
By this point, Dr. Clef had already closed his eyes. A distant screaming got closer and closer until the wall of his office
I know what it was.
Oh
no!
The room shrieking with rage and began tearing the hapless soldiers to shreds. Clef rolled away, keeping his eyes closed and waiting for the carnage to be over. But in a grander sense, the carnage had only just begun. Oh, and for those who were curious, yes, SCP-811 did get her blobfish plushie. She loved it.
Yay,
outside the facility,
cute.
Jeff Bezos looked upon the destruction he wrought
811.
and laughed. It was just as wonderful as he'd imagined it in all his years of intense planning for this very moment. It all unfolded exactly to his design. The SCP Foundation would fall, and his master plan would finally be complete. Dr. Jack Bright, demoralized but not defeated, rose shakily to his feet. This whole disaster had been his fault. He had to redeem this. He had to defeat Jeff Bezos, or the Foundation would fall into his iron clutches. Even if it finally truly killed him, Dr. Bright would not give up. "Impressive tech," Dr. Bright said, cracking his knuckles and getting Jeff's attention again. "Which sweatshop built it for you?" Jeff just laughed and turned to Bright again, more than ready for round 2.
"A little place called Prometheus Labs."
Yeah, of course.
Jeff said.
"Remember them? I was on the board of directors before the incident. Just like you and your Foundation dogs, they left behind plenty of goodies for me."
Dang.
Dr. Bright charged at Bezos, screaming in animal fury. He punched the smug and anomalous businessman square in the jaw. Bezos barely even flinched. He gave Jack an utterly brutal open-handed slap, knocking him towards the entrance to Site 19, where more Amazon soldiers were still pouring in.
Dang.
Still, Jack began to stand again. "What?
Camel.
What the hell does a corporate stiff like you want with the SCP Foundation?" he
Yeah.
said. "We want to help the world, not rule it." Bezos sneered and began stomping towards the immortal doctor.
"I don't just want to rule the world, Jack. I want to hold it in my hand like an apple and take a big juicy bite. All that exists will belong to me,"
he said, throwing a
Classic
punch that
Bezos.
Dr. Bright was thankfully able to dodge.
"That's always been the plan, and the SCP Foundation is the final piece I need."
Dr. Bright, summoning all the adrenaline in his body, unleashed a flurry of sharp punches to Jeff's abdomen. He simply tanked every strike and laughed.
Just like
I've been funding the Chaos Insurgency for years, Jack. I'm one of Marshall Carter and Doc's largest shareholders. Amazon is Dr. Wondertainment's primary global distributor. The Sarkists, the Fifthist, the Mechanites, those pretentious art snobs, are we cool yet? They're all in my deep pockets.
Seriously?
Jeff roared. He wrapped one of his massive hands around Dr. Bright's throat and lifted him clear off the ground. Jack struggled against his grip.
"You've spent decades worrying about all the wrong things, Jack,"
Jeff said slowly, tightening his grip around Dr. Bright's throat.
"The Devourer of Worlds, the Black Moon, the Scarlet King. My new world won't have a king. It'll have a CEO.
Oh my.
And with the power within these walls, I'll be the chairman of the Cosmic Board. And it all starts with me killing you and turning your silly little necklace into a paperweight."
But Jack had an ace up his sleeve. Something he had the good sense to pocket before facing Bezos on the battlefield. He reached into his lab coat and pulled out SCP-662.
Yes, the butler.
The butler's handbell. One little ring and Mr. Deeds suddenly appeared right next to them. Jack barely managed to wheeze out, "Deeds, kick Jeff in the groin." "Of course, Mr. Deeds said before doing exactly that. Jeff winced in pain and loosened his grip on Dr. Bright's neck. The plucky immortal took his chance to wriggle free from Jeff's grip and run into the facility, yelling back, "Deeds, stall him!" But before Deeds could execute this order, Jeff Bezos fractured the anomalous butler's skull with a single punch and chased Dr. Bright into the facility. He would have his revenge. As Dr. Bright fled, he grabbed his Foundation walkie-talkie and frantically spoke into it. "Clef, I'm in big trouble. I think I have a way to stop this, but there's just something you need to do for me first." Battles were raging throughout the site. Some Amazon soldiers had unloaded their rifles into Kane, only to find themselves on the floor dying of massive blood loss. Other squadrons of mercenaries were being tortured by the nightmarish SCP-106 in his terrifying pocket dimension. He was having a wonderful time.
I'm sure.
SCP-999 was even tickling a gaggle of Amazon's hired veteran war criminals into absolute submission. Much to Jeff's rage and horror, it looked like with the help of the anomalies, the Foundation might actually be able to turn the tide. This would not do. He'd destroy Bright and take care of the rest personally.
"It has to be this way, Jack!"
Bezos yelled after the fleeing doctor.
"I'm making the mother of all corporate omelets here. Can't fret over a few ransacked containment sites."
Bezos' self-aggrandizing rants were interrupted by
I haven't even played the game yet, and I know all these.
Leaping onto him out of an adjoining hallway, giving Dr. Bright even more time to create distance between them. 682 fought valiantly and viciously, but Jeff's Prometheus Labs nanomachine augmentations gave him the edge. He was able to get SCP-682 into a headlock, Steve Irwin style, then punch it in the head until it was knocked out. Jeff sighed, relieved, and continued to chase after Jack. As Jeff turned a corner to chase Dr. Bright, he ran right into one of Jack's traps. There was Dr. Bright standing about 15 feet away from him, holding his favorite item that he normally wasn't allowed to use. The chainsaw cannon.
Nice.
Jack smirked and said, "Smile, you son of a..."
Boom!
A chainsaw projectile blasted towards
Jeff at incredible speed. It was
through pure luck and superhuman reflexes that Jeff was able to catch it between his palms by the blade and hold it in place, even as it cut into his nanite-hardened skin. With a grunt of rage, he threw the saw into the ground.
"Is that all you got, Jack?"
he growled. "Not quite," Dr. Bright replied. "I've got a few friends who owe me some favors." Suddenly, Bezos heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see three figures standing there, primed and ready for battle. SCP-4494, the Spectre, SCP-5151, the Black Knight, and SCP-2800, Cactus Man.
"You fight without honor, Sir Jeffrey,"
the Black Knight proclaimed as he drew his longsword.
"Aye, and I can't stand bullies,"
said Cactus Man as his spikes began to grow.
"Wage theft and tax evasion is a crime, evildoer," the Spectre added. "Well then," Jeff said, "I suppose I'll just have to kill you all."
The fight began.
Oh my gosh.
Our group of 4 heroes held their own impressively to begin with. They consistently helped each other block or avoid the deadly strikes that Bezos was unleashing and returning their own. 4 anomalies against 1.
Nice.
The Black Knight even gave Dr. Bright one of his spare swords to give him a better chance of landing a meaningful blow against Bezos. But in the end, it was all for nothing. Bezos powered up his nanomachines, drawing energy from the building around him until he was even larger and stronger.
Oh, dang.
In his state, he easily beat down his 4 attackers, incapacitating them and standing over Bright.
"It's useless, Jack,"
he said with another evil laugh.
"You can't beat me."
"I know,"
Jack groaned in pain.
"but I did a pretty good job of stalling you."
At that moment, Clef came running down the hall wielding another firearm.
He's got a
but
Nerf
it wasn't
gun.
a shotgun this time. In fact, it didn't even look like a real gun. It looked like a spray-painted Nerf gun.
Yeah.
That got another laugh out of Jeff. What an utterly feeble attempt. That's when Dr.
Actually
Clef
have that
loaded the
one.
Nerf gun and fired one of its darts against Jeff's chest, where it seemed to bounce off uselessly.
"Really?"
he asked, incredulous.
"Come on, this is just getting..."
His words were cut off by an uppercut from Dr. Bright. Inexplicably, he actually felt that one. Jeff staggered back, rubbing his jaw as Bright rose to his feet.
"How the hell did you hurt me?"
Ow.
Jeff muttered, genuinely shocked. Dr. Bright smirked. That was the nerfing gun, Chrome Dome.
Nerfing
just made your
gun.
precious nanomachines useless.
Ah!
With another incredibly well-earned punch in the face from Dr. Bright, Jeff was down on the ground with a bleeding nose. Elsewhere in the facility, the researchers, guards, and anomalies working together had defeated the dark forces of Amazon. Outside, Hammerdown, the largest and most militarily powerful mobile task force, had arrived and wiped out what remained of Jeff's invasion force outside.
I wonder when they were going to show up.
But the SCP Foundation had won. As Jeff lay on the ground holding his broken nose, Dr. Bright held him at sword point.
Wait, Jeff said. Let's not let hard feelings linger. We're both adults, right? And I'm a businessman. I make deals, compromises. I can give you anything from the Amazon stock, free of charge, as long as we agree that I can go and we forget all about this.
Dr. Bright smiled and thought it over. Well, he said, there are a few things I'd like for myself. And there are still plenty more anomalies that need enriching. Victory secured. Want another video about the deranged things Dr. Bright bought for even more anomalies and Foundation staff?
Yes.
Let us know down in the comments, and we'll continue the strangest story that the SCP Foundation's most eccentric researcher ever told. Now go check out SCP Edition, Weird Things on Amazon, Dr. Bright's Great Idea, and SCP-001 When Day Breaks, Dr. Bright, for more of the Mad Doctor's most peculiar adventures.
Okay, I want to watch that one.